Okay, so this section is all about factoring. We just did multiply in R3, so R4 is all about factoring, so going backwards. The first type of factoring we're going to look at is factoring out a GCF. Anytime you factor, this is what you want to check first. Is there a greatest common factor that you need to take out first? Yep, this is R4. We're going to do R4 today and Monday. Okay, so I'm going to start with this first one. So let's just look at the numbers first. So what's my greatest common factor between 9, 18, and 36? 9. So it has to go into all three of them. Okay, what about p squared, p cubed, and p to the fourth? P squared. So taking out a GCF is distributive property backwards. Okay, so I'm doing distributive property backwards, meaning what do I have to multiply 9 by to get 9? What about p squared to get p squared? 1. Okay, so I just have to multiply that by 1 to get 9p squared. What do I have to multiply 9 by to get negative 18? Negative 2. What about p squared to get p cubed? P. Okay, what do I multiply 9 by to get 36? 4. What about p squared to get p to the fourth? P squared. Okay, good. We're going to talk about factoring trinomials too, but this one does not factor anymore, so we're okay. And you can just leave it like this since it gave it to you, not in standard form, so we are good here. I want to go on and look at this one next, and then we'll do the other two.
Mrs. Cecil,
Yes?
can I have Hannah Singer to the Guidance Center at the end of the hour, please?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay, what's your common factor between 1/2, 2, and negative 5? 1. So there's not really anything that goes into all three. But yeah, my common factor between all of it is x. So my common factor, though, on my variables is just an x. So what do I get? If I factor out an x from 1/2 x cubed, I get 1/2 x squared, and then I get plus 2x, and then minus 5. Good. And I want to look at these next two now. So the next two kind of get us started for what we're going to do next. We're going to factor by grouping next. All right, so if I look at here, this top one, what is the common factor? What do they have in common? X minus 1. So I'm factoring out the x minus 1. So I'm factoring out x minus 1 just like I would these other two. So that comes out. I have to put it in parentheses, though, because I want it to stay together. And when we factor out a GCF, we put what's left in parentheses. Okay? So what I have left from my first group is x. And then for my second group, what do I have left? Yep. Positive 6, so plus 6. And so that is how it factors. Okay, do the same thing for this fourth one. Okay, what's the GCF that I take out? X minus 3. So what am I left with then? 2/3 x minus 4. Good. Okay, questions about that? Okay, so we're going to use that now when we factor by grouping. So notice that it says the grouping method is used when there are 4 terms. So if we're going to factor a polynomial with 4 terms, the way we're going to do that right now is by grouping. If you learned to factor trinomials by split the middle, this is kind of similar to that. This will remind you of that. Okay, well what I want to do is I want to group them. That's why it's called factor by grouping. So I'm just going to put parentheses around the first 2 terms and the second 2 terms. So I have to be careful with my signs. So I'm going to look at that minus sign as a negative. So I'm going to keep that with the 2, negative 2. And technically what I'm doing is I'm adding in between. I'm not multiplying, so I'm adding in between. Okay, then I need to factor out GCFs from both sets of parentheses. So if I look at my 4 and 6, what is the GCF on 4 and 6? 2. And then my k's? K squared. Good. So I'm left with on the inside 2. What times 2 gives me 4? And k squared times what gives me k cubed? Okay. Plus 2 times 3. And then k squared to get k squared is just 1, so I'm good here. Alright? Plus. Now, between negative 2k and negative 3, what's the greatest common factor? Right, it is 1, but I do need to use a negative 1 because what I want to happen is my parentheses to match. So notice that's positive 2k plus positive 3. So I want this to be a positive 2k and a positive 3. Well, to do that, I have to take out a negative. So if you need to switch your signs, you take out a negative. And since there's not any other number besides 1 that goes into 2 and 3, I'll just say negative 1. Now I have a problem like these. So what is my common factor now? Good, 2k plus 3. So that's what I want to factor out, 2k plus 3. Oh, yep, 2k plus 3. Thank you. Okay. And then what do I have left after I factor that out? 2k squared minus 1. If either one of these factored more, you would keep going. It doesn't, so we are good. Okay, try the next one. Okay, that went through. My common factor, the only thing I have in common on the first one is an x. So that leaves me with 3 minus y. 3x minus y. Thank you. That didn't seem right. Thank you. 3x minus y. And then I have a 2. But if I factor out just a 2, I'm going to end up with a negative 3x and a positive y. So again, if we want the signs to switch, then I need to do a negative 2. So it's 3x minus y. And then my 3x minus y is what's in common, is what I factor out now. And I'm left with x minus 2. Questions about that? No, it's not wrong. I just do this one first because I think of it like factoring out a greatest common factor. But no, it's not wrong if you do the x minus 2. This should only be written one time, though, because you're factoring it out of both. Okay, so just sometimes when students are first learning this, or they do it with factoring, like split the middle, they'll write x minus 2, and then they'll write 3x minus y, 3x minus y. No, because what we're doing is factoring that out, so it only needs to be written the one time. Okay. So now we're going to look at factoring quadratic polynomials. These are trinomials that we're going to look at today. So when you first learned how to do this in Algebra 1, you maybe were given a method to do that, like a box method or AC split the middle. We're going to do guess and check. That's what I'm going to teach you here. And the reason is because we use this so much is that you're going to want the fastest way. And this ends up being the fastest way once you get good enough at it. If you want to use the other ways you learned, if you remember how to use them, that's fine. You can use them. I'm not going to show you in class, but if you want to come talk to me before or after school about it or anything, we can go over a method. But we're going to just do guess and check. You will get faster at these too. You just have to practice. If you're not very good at them, then I would recommend practicing some this weekend. So we will use it. We will be factoring all year. So you have to know how to factor. It's not something you can just skip over for now and then hope you don't have to worry about it. It keeps coming up. Okay, so these are the forms of a quadratic. Ax squared plus bx plus c. So we're factoring up this form. So when the number in front is 1, then it's really pretty easy. So in this case here, the number in front is 1. And what I want to think about with the guess and check is doing FOIL backwards. So that's what I'm looking at, is doing FOIL backwards. Put this down. Okay. So I'm going to factor these to two binomials. So I'm going to start off with two parentheses. Two sets of parentheses. The first number in my parentheses, okay, gives me this. So the only thing I can have to get s squared would be s times s. Then the last two numbers give me my third term. So my last two numbers multiply to give me 6. All right, well, I can have 6 and 1 or 2 and 3. Okay? When I multiply to be a positive 6, what's true about my numbers? Yep, both positive or both negative. All right, so I'm going to make a little note about that too. So it's either positive, positive, or negative, negative. Well, take a look at my middle number. My middle number is negative, so do you think they're going to be both positive or both negative? Both negative. That's true. Okay, so let's try 2 and 3. So typically when you're trying these, start with the numbers that are closest together. So instead of trying 6 and 1 first, start with 2 and 3. And that's just usually what it ends up being. And it's not always, but just to save you a little bit of time, typically it'll be the numbers that are closer together. All right, so what I want to do, I'm thinking FOIL here, so I want to check the outer and inner, because your outer and inner are what your like terms are. So when I multiply the outer and I multiply the inner and add those together, I get this number. So my outer is negative 3s. The inner is negative 2s. And when I add those together, do I get negative 5s? Yes. So that's the check, which tells me this is correct. This is my answer. So what I have in red is just checking that that's right. But what is in parentheses is the answer. Okay, let's look at the next one. Okay, factors of 3. 3 and 1. Those are my only options. So this has to be 3x and 1x. Okay, factors of 2. 2 and 1, and it's positive, so again, it's either going to be positive, positive, or negative, negative. Well, I only have one option of numbers, 2 and 1. Now, I just have to make sure I have them in the right place. I have to make sure I have them in the right place. You think I'll use 2 positives or 2 negatives? Okay, so I'm going to do -1 and -2, and we'll check that. Okay, what do I get for my outer? Negative 6x. What about the inner? Negative 1x. When I add those together, negative 7x. Is that right? No. Okay. So this is why it's guess and check. You guessed, you checked, that's not right. So what can I do? I can make them both positive, but that's not really what I'm looking for. The negative was right. So instead of doing 1 and 2, I can do 2 and 1. Oh, sorry. And my outer I get negative 3x, the inner negative 2x, and that does give me my negative 5x. So if you did this and you wrote x minus 1 first, that's okay. That's okay. You can switch the parentheses as long as the signs go with the right numbers. Okay, so you have to have 3x minus 2 and you have to have x minus 1, but the order could change. Okay, let's look at this one. All right, what are my factors of 9? 9 and 1 and 3 and 3. Which one would we want to start with? Yeah, start with the 3 and 3. It's not always going to be the case, but typically it's the ones closer together. What are my factors of 2? Good. So 1 and 2, it's a negative 2. So my signs are a positive and a negative. It could be negative positive, but one has to be negative, one has to be positive. Okay, so let's just give it a shot. Plus 1 minus 2. Sometimes you get lucky and you guess it right on the first time. So that's negative 6x plus 3x gives me negative 3x. All right, so we got lucky and guessed it the first time. Okay. Questions so far? All right, I want you to do this one. Okay, so 9 and 1 or 3 and 3. So I'm going to start with 3u and 3u. 16, you have 16 and 1. 8 and 2 and 4 and 4. Again, I'm going to start with the 4 and 4, the closer ones. So I notice that this is a positive, so they have to be both positive or both negative. Since I'm adding to be a positive, though, I'm going to use my positive signs. Okay, the outer is 12u. The inner is 12u. And that does give me 24u. So this was correct. You could also write that like this, right? Because they're both the same. So I'd accept either way. We practiced, we multiplied that out in R3. Now we're factoring it. It's hard to recognize it from here that it's going to end up like this, so I would just factor it like normal, and then if it does, you can write it like this. Questions about that? All right, we're going to do special products on Monday.